So we're going to practice applications of percent, which means we're going to see how to use the percent over 100 equaling part over whole proportion that we just learned right here. And we had practiced understanding that is means part, of means whole, and the percent is the actual percent. So another way to think about it is your percent is part of the whole as a percent. Your 100 is the whole as a percent. Your part is the part as an amount, like a dollar amount or a numerical amount. And your whole, down here in the denominator, which is across from 100%, is the entire amount that you start with. So that's a quick review of what we've learned. I'm going to give you some vocabulary to help with some word problems we're doing today. The first is salary. Salary is a fixed amount of pay a person earns for working. So most people get a monthly or yearly salary, something like that. So for example, a person that's on a salary will get the same amount of money every month for their work. That's different than commission. Commission is what salespeople make. And commission can be a commission rate or a commission amount. So this right here, this definition is actually commission rate. Anytime you see the word rate, rate means percent. So commission rate is a percent of the sell price of an item that the salesperson gets to keep as their pay. For example, if I get 10% commission rate for selling $100 worth of shoes, I would make $10. So the $10 would be the commission, the 10% would be the commission rate. So let's think about that for a second. So up here where we have part as a percent and part as an amount, we're now going to apply that to this idea of commission. So we're going to have the commission rate as our percent, and we're going to have the commission as a dollar amount as our part. So anything that can be written as a percent can be then converted into an amount. So commission rate as a percent should be across from commission as a dollar amount. Our whole as a percent will be across from the whole as an amount, and in this case, the whole will be how much the salesperson sold, or the total sales as a dollar amount. So the total sales is represented as 100%. Okay, so now let's look at some problems. In this first problem, Aaron earns a weekly salary of $350. So remember, salary is our fixed amount. So Aaron's going to earn that $350 no matter how much he sells. Now, Aaron also gets a 7% commission, so that's the commission rate. Rate is always percent on the sales, on how much he sells. Last week, his sales totaled $3,200. What was his total pay? So the whole idea here is that we're going to be adding the salary plus the commission. So we're going to be adding $350 plus the commission, but you don't add the commission, you don't add plus 7%. You have to figure out what 7% of the $3,200 is, right? In order to add all that together. So let's look at how we would do this. So we have 350 plus 7% of 3,200 gives the total pay. So 350 is the salary. 7% of 3,200 we have to figure out using a proportion. So we're going to move over here and create this proportion. So we want to know what 7% of 3,200 is. We're going to cross multiply 7 times 3,200 to get 22,400. and cross multiply 100 times x to get 100x. And we know these cross products are equal to each other because when you have two equal fractions, the cross products are always equal to each other. So now we're going to solve this like we solve any equation that's a multiplication equation. We solve it by dividing by whatever's being multiplied by x. So we divide by 100. And if we divide the left side by 100, we have to divide the right side by 100. So 22,400 divided by 100 gives us $224. So this is the amount of commission. So that's what we just solved for, the amount of commission based on the rate of commission. And of course, 3,200 was the total sales. So now we're going to take this $224 right over here, and we're going to add it to the salary of $350. And when we do that, the total pay is $574. So Aaron will earn $574 total based on his sales of $3,200, his salary of $350, and his 7% commission rate. In our next example, we have sales tax rate. So let's talk about this. Remember, rate means percent. So a tax rate is the percent of tax added to the cost of something you buy. And it's based on how much you spend. So in the state with the sales tax rate of 7%, so that's our tax rate, Hernando buys a radio for $59.99 and a CD for $13.99. How much is the sales tax? So we're going to use the tax rate to determine the sales tax. So they should be across from each other in our proportion. The first thing we need to do, however, is figure out the total amount of money that Hernando spent, because the 7% tax rate is based on that total. So let's look. The first thing you're going to do is find the total cost, how much Hernando actually spent. So $59.99 plus $13.99 is $73.98. So this is the total cost. So we're going to take this number and put it in our denominator in our proportion. So we have a 7% tax rate, which should be across from the tax amount, which is what we're solving for. So x goes in the numerator across from tax percent. Our whole is 100% as a percent, and as a dollar amount is $73.98 because that's the total that Hernando spent. So as with all proportions, we are going to cross multiply because anytime you have two fractions that are equal, the cross products will be equal. So 100 times x is 100x. Bring down your equals. 7 times 73.98 is 517.86. Now we have a one-step equation. The way we solve it is by dividing by 100 so that we can get x by itself. And if we divide by 100 on the left, we have to do the same on the right. And we end up with $5.18 when you round to the nearest hundredths, since this is money. So what does that tell us? That tells us that Hernando spent $518 in tax. So he was charged $5.18 in tax when he spent $73.98. And the tax rate was 7%. Let's look at the next problem. So last year, Nadia earned $31,025. Of that amount, she spent $3,612.59 on food. What percent of her income went to food to the nearest 0.1%? So basically, we want to figure out what 3,612.59 is out of the total. We want to find the percent. So the first thing I notice here is that I'm looking for my percent. So I know that my x goes over 100. And then I have to figure out which one of these numbers highlighted in yellow is my total. So let's look at that. So last year, Nadia earned a total of $31,025. So that goes in the denominator because that's the total amount. Out of that, she spent $3,612.59. So that goes in the numerator. We want to know what this number is, 3,612.59, as a percent. So now we're just going to cross multiply and solve, and we get 11.6% rounded to the nearest tenth. Now let's look at the next problem. Shane works at a computer store. If he earns $20.93 from 7% commission on the sale of a printer, what was the price of the printer? Well, we know the interest percent is 7%, and we know the commission percent is 7%, and we know the commission is actually $20.93. So we know the commission percent and the commission, so they should be across from each other, with the percent being over 100. We're looking for the price of the printer. So basically, we're asking ourselves to find the total amount when 7% of that total amount is $20.93. As always, we're going to cross multiply and solve, and we get $299 was the price of the computer. Keep in mind with all of these, you can check your work by putting your answer in the place of X and seeing if you get two fractions that are equal to each other. And the easiest way to check that is by cross multiplying. 7 times 299 should equal 100 times 20.93. And in this case, they both equal 2,093, so I know that I did that correctly. Let's look at the next problem. A sweater is 65% wool by weight. If the sweater weighs 12.4 ounces, how much wool is in the sweater? So let's think about our proportion. We have our percent as a part over 100%, which is our whole. And then we have part as an amount over our total or whole. So what would we put where? Well, obviously 65% is our percent, so that goes over 100. If the sweater weighs 12.4 ounces, how much wool is in the sweater? So in this case, since the amount of wool is what we're looking for, X is going to go across from 65%. Because 65% tells you how much wool is in the sweater as a percent. We want to know how much wool is in the sweater as an amount. So wool goes across from wool. And then the total weight of the sweater goes across from 100%. So now we just cross multiply and solve, and we get 8.06 ounces of wool in the sweater. Of the 427 people responding to a public opinion poll, 224 answered yes to a certain question and 154 answered no. What percent of those responding were undecided? Okay, so right away I know I'm looking for the percent. So I know I can put X over 100. And it tells us how many people answered yes or no, and what we're actually being asked for is how many are undecided. So what we're going to have to do is add up how many people said yes or no, and we get 378. And then we're going to subtract that from our total number of people. And there were 427 total people. So when we subtract, we get 49 people that were undecided. So now that we know the number of people that were undecided, we can put that across from the percent of people that are undecided, which is what we're looking for. So we're going to put the number of people undecided across from the percent that's undecided, which is what we're looking for. So that's our X. And then we'll put the total amount of people across from 100. And then we're going to cross multiply and divide. We end up with 11.475, and the number goes on. So when we round this, it's going to be 11.5%. Press pause and look through the steps on this problem.